Fumio Kishida has formally taken office as Japan's new Prime Minister, succeeding Mr. Suga, who resigned after just 1 year in office. Mr. Kishida has won the race to lead Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party last week. Japan's new Prime Minister has called a parliamentary election on October 31st. To give their insights on this new development, we have with us Mr. Shashank S. Patel. Welcome, Shashank.
Thank you, Kavita.
Going with our first question, I would like to ask you that the new Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has been sworn in, and what do you think the world can expect from the new Prime Minister and Japan?
Rather than world, I would say firstly, Japan itself expect the stable, consistent, and forward-looking governance from him. The very first thing which the Japan actually literally right now demanded. And it has the reason. After the loss of the public support and the political backing to the Suga on the issues of the COVID management and the Olympics especially, Kishida must show the continuation on economic and diplomatic fronts both. See, Japanese society still believes that the Olympics was a super spreader event for pandemic, and which reflected in the election approval ratings of Kishida. So he has right now he has the lowest support for becoming a premier of the Japan since 2008, according to, and even if you can go through the latest survey done by the Mainichi, I think it's done day before yesterday. His approval rating is stood at mere 49%, which was followed by the Taro Kono at 45%, and he has to run for prime ministerial post again in the next 3 weeks or so. So hence the prime thing which world is seeking is the consistency in the Japanese policy, which will not be assured, cannot be assured in the next 1 month till his re-election. So post that, his consensus building image will be tested. I believe, as he's a very seasoned politician and earlier had proved his capabilities in the both governance and the party level both. The policy division in the key policy decisions and the divisions which he led in the recent past in the key subjects like the economy, defense, foreign, and interior will see a rapid advance, and the social sector will experience the moderate growth. So it is pertinent to mention here that the developments in the defense sector, especially in the relation of the SDF expenses and their operability, will see the rapid, effective, and consistent efforts from PMO of Japan.
As you just mentioned that there has been negative atmosphere regarding the huge expectations that were there from the previous administration after Shinzo Abe had stepped down. So do you think this administration will be able to overcome the challenges created by the Suga administration, and can it put Japan back on pedestal it was once at?
There is huge expectation from Japan in the next 3 to 4 years. Whoever comes to the post of the premier, it doesn't matter whether it will be Kishida or whether it will be Taro Kono. It is not only limited to the names of the Abe, Suga, or Kishida, because Japan is the main regional player in the East Asian region under the US security umbrella, which will lead the operations in South and East China Sea. So I see these expectations in three key areas. The first one is the regional stability, where Chinese and Korean activities grew immensely in the last 3 months. The second one is the economic stimulus, where the European and American capital firms are seeking possibilities to expand over in Japan. And the third one is the defense architecture, and it is very important to see how Japan will explore its options in the coming days by maintaining bar of the Article 9 of its constitution of the 1% bar of the Article 9. So my personal belief is that out of these three major expectation, only economic stimulus will be taken care of. The rest two forays are in the grave vicious cycle of the multiple stakeholders on board, and in single tenure, it is quite tough to actually realign them. PM Kishida is taking the chair in a very tumultuous phase of Japanese politics. And, as the trusted official shook the alliance with the Komeito party, and popularity of the LDF fell below 50%, any major gains in the opposition could hobble the Kishida from start And further pandemic mismanagement will join him in a long list of the short-serving premiers for the Japan.
Yeah, and going on to the next question, that as you had mentioned earlier, that there has been an accelerated growth of COVID cases in Japan, and even the regional politics seems to be under turbulence. So, what do you think should be the priority of the Kishida government?
See, Kavita, COVID is a very big issue in Japan. Unlike the other societies, Japanese society never gone through any such virulence in the recent history. As the Japanese healthcare systems is one of the best in the world, they always compete with their Eastern counterparts to ramp up their advancements actually. So former PM Suga's approval rating dips to 37% from 71%, which was very high at the initiation of his tenure just because of the poor COVID management. So see the intensity of that particular factor. And I find the few priorities of the Kishida-san in the governance, what he will actually expect. The first one is the better COVID management first, which is the core of the elections. Second one is again, which I told you about the fiscal stimulus, as he named as an economic minister separately for the governance in that particular area. So I expect more push in the domestic market by government, which will stretch the burden of the central bank. And the new theory which he coined, the new capitalism, which will distribute the wealth equally among the parties. And it also reduce the disparity basically. So let's see what happens with the fiscal thing, which he actually planned off. The third one, I would say, the restarting the nuclear power plants in the next 4 to 5 months, which he actually told in his election manifesto. So it is required, and it is literally required in the whole South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia is scumbling for the coal required for the power generation. You recently heard in the case of the China. And the fourth, I will say, he will woo the domestic tourism on the priority under the subsidized scheme of Japan, which is the go to travel scheme, and it will further expanding it to the foreigners as well in the future, in the coming future, in the next 6 to 7 months we can see that. And the last one, I would say, the very important thing from my perspective is the to further digitalize the society, partly through the investment in the green technologies and the artificial intelligence. So overall, the impetus will be on the local factors more rather than tackling in the region till 1 year after his re-election, not from now, after the re-elections. So post that, Japan will surely open the fronts in the East Asia by backing the Taiwan and the democratic movement by ramping its defense infrastructure under the US security umbrella. One can sniff it even in the open.
Now, coming to the India Japan relationship question. So, India and Japan have been close allies and share a de facto symbiotic relationship. How could
Okay.
the new relationship of the Kishida government be seen vis a vis India Japan relationship?
See, Kavita, I want totally agree with that particular word symbiotic here. We are more mutualistic per se. I see reciprocity in Indo-Japan bilateral relations more rather than following one another's footsteps. And PM Kishida, in talks with the Prime Minister yesterday, I think 3 or 3:30 Indian Standard Time, pushed the cooperation in the high technology areas under the proposed plan of the Society 5.0. They both agreed to further enhance the cooperation in a variety of the areas, including high technology, futuristic sectors like the 5G and blockchain mechanisms. So this is a very stale path which actually the Japan and India will go. And in the other domain, with the help of the India, Kishida will literally find the new avenues for cooperation in Quad to actually boost the capability of the Indo-Pacific, which will directly or indirectly benefit Japan as it is in his courtyard. So any development in defense and architecture, supply lines, even the Sagar doctrine of India in Indo-Pacific will benefit Japan. So I see more cooperation between the JICA, JETRO-like agencies with the market-intensive corporates in India, with some, big mergers or collaborations in the coming days. PM Kishida will actually activate the commercial lane of cooperation with India primarily, as Japan needs it ardently right now. So the political development will wait, but the economic engagements are the need of the hour for Japan right now.
Yeah, and lastly, it's anticipated that Kishida's government is a good sign for India. Do you
Hmm.
agree to this statement, or do you feel it's again a matter of oversimplification, given a new regime has just been elected to power?
So then I have to be a bit diplomatic with it. Yes, I agree with it. He will approve to be the another beta version of Shinzo Abe for India. I would say, but he will not initiate much new threats in ongoing policies due to the possible non-cooperation from the Alliance Komeito party locally in Japan, and he was the longest serving foreign minister after World War II for Japan, and had a long experience in House of Representatives. He knew the ground just due to the experience as a LDP policymaker that LDP is not that powerful as it was in 2014, and their approval rating fell consistently in the last 2 years. So it means the proactive engagements which we saw earlier with the Japan and India will suffer by some lacunas for sure. But one thing I have to pertinently say here is Japan is going through a turbulent phase of political settlements right now. We may see the face of changing leadership yearly or in half yearly, as was in the first decade of this century. India has to emphasize on broad policy maneuvers rather than making the profound interpersonal relations with Japan.
With that, we'll wrap up the interview. Thanks, Shashank, for sharing your opinion on the election of new Prime Minister in Japan. And thanks for coming here. And thanks for sharing your opinion.
Thanks, Kavita, for inviting me on the Kootneeti again. Thank you.